At Grandma Ruth's 85th birthday, Dad raised his glass. Claire bought a 4-bedroom house, but she would rather see 3 children homeless than share it. Mom stood beside Aaron. "They are not moving in," I said. Grandma's smile vanished. "Then why did your parents ask me for $42,000 to build their rooms?" I stared. "What money?" She pulled a receipt and renovation plan from her purse. Dad went pale. Mom reached for the papers. Grandma pulled back. My address appeared on a proposal dated 6 weeks before I owned the property. But the shock was not the renovation. It was where Grandma's money had gone and what my parents had scheduled to arrive at my door Saturday morning. Before I dive into the story, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Let me know if your family has ever promised away something you owned. Your advice reminds me I'm not alone. My name is Claire Bennett, and by 35, I had learned that being the dependable daughter usually meant everyone assumed I could absorb one more sacrifice. I worked as a senior capital projects procurement manager for a hospital system outside Cincinnati. My days were spent reviewing contractor bids, verifying licenses, tracking deposits, and rejecting invoices that did not match the work performed. At work, no one received $1 without a verified scope. At home, my parents believed a promise was enough to claim 3 bedrooms. For 7 years, I had built my life around buying a home. I skipped expensive vacations, kept driving my paid-off sedan, worked through hospital expansions, and stayed in a small apartment while my savings grew. The house in Mason cost $492,000. I put down $118,000 and paid another $14,600 in closing costs. The mortgage, deed, insurance, and every dollar at closing were in my name alone. I had not borrowed from my parents. Grandma had not contributed. The 4 bedrooms were not empty luxuries. One was mine, one would be my home office, one was a guest room for Grandma Ruth. The 4th would become a library and workout room. The unfinished basement could wait until I decided what I wanted it to be. Mom never saw independence that way. Whenever my older sister Erin had a crisis, Mom said, "Claire will be fine." I had paid a utility bill, covered groceries for the children, and once sent enough to stop an eviction notice. Every favor became evidence that I could handle the next one. Erin and her husband, Matt, had 3 children, $47,600 in consumer debt, and 4 months of unpaid rent. Matt had been unemployed for 9 months because every available job was beneath his experience. Erin worked 20 hours a week and said the children made more impossible. I still loved them. I just did not want their instability living under my roof. When I invited my parents to see the house, I expected pride. Mom walked through the front door, scanned the staircase, and asked, "Where is the finished basement?" Then Dad stepped into the hallway and said, "5 people cannot live down there without another bathroom." I stopped beside the newel post. What 5 people? Mom answered before Dad could recover. Erin, Matt, and the children are moving in next month. I stared at her. "No, they are not." She blinked as if I had misunderstood something obvious. "You have 4 bedrooms. Claire, you cannot possibly need all of them." Dad folded his arms. The plan was for Erin and Matt to use the larger guest room. The girls would share one room, Noah would take the other, and you could move your office into the dining room. "What plan the family plan?" Mom said. They would stay rent-free for 18 months, then contribute when Matt found suitable work. I looked from one of them to the other. "You promised 3 bedrooms in a house I had not even bought yet." "They are family," Dad said. "You were supposed to consult us before choosing a layout." That was when I understood. They were not angry because I had made a large financial decision. They were angry because the deed carried only my name. The basement was unfinished, and they had lost their chance to shape my purchase around Erin's crisis. "I paid the mortgage deposit, taxes, insurance, and closing costs," I said. "No one is moving in," Mom's voice sharpened. "Erin's lease ends next month. The children have already been told they are getting new rooms. Then you should not have told them. You will not put 3 children into a motel." "I did not create that risk." "You did." Dad stepped closer. "We raised you to care about family. You raised me to believe permission mattered." I opened the front door. Mom paused beside me. "When everyone hears what you are doing, Do not expect them to defend you within 48 hours. Erin filled my phone with messages accusing me of choosing empty rooms over her children. Matt left a voicemail calling our move a family arrangement I was suddenly abandoning. Aunts and cousins began asking why I had changed my mind. I had never made it up. Then Matt called and asked whether the moving company could deliver their furniture to my garage before Saturday. Why would your furniture come to a house you were never invited to? He went silent. Finally, he said. Erin already ended the lease. That was when I realized they had not asked permission because they had already created the consequences they planned to use against my answer. I did not wait for a moving truck to appear. That night, I changed the locks, reset the garage code, installed a video doorbell, and emailed Mom, Dad, Erin, and Matt. No one had permission to move into my house. No furniture could be delivered. My address could not be used for school enrollment, utilities, mail, or insurance. All future communication had to be in writing. The next morning, a moving company called to confirm where their truck should park on Saturday. I told them I had not booked a move. The dispatcher read Erin's name and my address back to me an hour later. A furniture store called about 3 bedroom sets scheduled for delivery. I refused them too. Erin called immediately. "You're making us lose deposits. You placed deposits on access to property you do not own." Then my cousin Laura told me Mom had been describing my purchase as a multi-generational family home for months. According to her version, I had chosen the house for Erin's family, wanted to keep the arrangement private until closing, and had asked our parents to coordinate the move. Matt called me alone that evening. "Your mom said you agreed in principle. Show me one message where I agreed." He could not. He admitted their lease ended in 17 days. Their belongings were going into storage, and the children had already been told which rooms would be theirs. I sent him a list of townhouses, temporary rentals, and extended stay options. "I'll help you find information," I said. "I will not provide the house or pay the bill." 3 days later was Grandma Ruth's 85th birthday. I considered staying home. But Grandma had done nothing wrong. I refused to let my parents turn her celebration into another thing they could take from me. The restaurant had reserved a private dining room for 24 relatives. Old family photographs stood beside white flowers, and a slideshow played behind the cake table. For the first hour, I stayed beside Grandma and talked about her garden. Mom and Dad ignored me. Erin cried quietly whenever anyone asked about the move. As dessert approached, Dad tapped a spoon against his glass. "We need to address something that is tearing this family apart." Every face turned toward him. He placed one hand on Erin's shoulder. She and her 3 children are about to lose their home. Claire has just purchased a 4-bedroom house and refuses to let them use even one room. Mom stood beside him. Claire bought a family-sized home and decided family was not welcome. A few relatives looked at me with open disappointment. I stood. They did not ask for help after I bought the house. They promised themselves my house before I knew there was a problem. Dad waved his hand. "That is a detail. Permission is not a detail when the property belongs to someone else." Grandma looked confused. "But why are they still without a place?" she asked. "I gave your parents $42,000 to build their rooms." I turned toward her. "Grandma." What money? She reached into her purse and removed a wire receipt, a renovation budget, and an email saying I had approved everything. The proposal carried my new address. It was dated 6 weeks before I owned the property. The plan had Grandma's money, my parents' promise, and 3 bedrooms assigned to Erin's family. The only thing missing was my permission. I took the renovation plan from Grandma and read it the way I would review a contractor package at work. There was no license number, no permit allowance, no payment schedule, no detailed scope. The proposal listed a company called Riverstone Residential Solutions, but the phone number was disconnected and the address belonged to an empty storefront. Who was the contractor? I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "We were still finalizing that. Then, why did Grandma send $42,000?" Mom stepped forward. "The money was used to prepare Erin's family for the move." Prepare how her answer came in pieces: back rent, moving deposits, credit cards, repairs on Erin's SUV. Grandma stared at her. "You told me the money was for a bedroom, a bathroom, and an egress window. It was all part of the same transition." Mom insisted. "No." I said. There was no contractor, no renovation, and no move. You used Grandma's money to create pressure on my house. Matt turned toward Aaron. You said the basement work was funded. I thought most of it still was. Did you know Claire had never agreed Aaron looked at Mom instead of answering? Matt held out his hand. Give me your phone. Aaron hesitated, then unlocked it. The first message he found had been sent 2 months earlier. Aaron had written, "What if Claire refuses after we give notice?" Mom replied, "Once the lease is gone and the kids are packed, she will not turn you away." Another message came from Dad. "Claire may object, but she will not make a scene in front of the children." The room went silent. They had known I had not agreed. They had deliberately ended the lease, scheduled the move, and assigned rooms before asking me because they believed consequences could replace consent. Grandma placed the wire receipt on the table. "You did not help Aaron find a home," she said. "You used my money to claim Claire's." Dad tried to lower his voice. "We were trying to keep the family together. You removed Claire's choice, spent my money, and called both acts kindness." One of my aunts asked why Aaron's family could not stay with Mom and Dad. Mom frowned. "Our house is too small for 5 extra people." "Then you understood exactly what you were asking of me," I said. "You simply decided the burden belonged in my house." I looked at Aaron. "I love your children. They did not create this plan, and I will never punish them for it. But loving them does not make me responsible for housing 2 adults who never asked me directly." Mom accused me of ruining Grandma's birthday. Grandma answered before I could. "You brought the lie to my table." No one cut the cake until Dad agreed to provide every bank statement the next morning. When I reviewed the records, the $42,000 was easy to trace. $14,700 had paid Aaron's back rent and late fees. $9,800 had gone to credit cards. $6,500 covered storage, moving, and furniture deposits. $5,000 repaired and insured the SUV. Only $6,000 remained. I also checked county permit records. No permit had ever been requested for my address. Riverstone Residential Solutions had closed 3 years earlier. The logo on the proposal had been copied from an old estimate Dad found in a neighbor's garage file. Grandma had paid for rooms that never existed. Inside a house my parents had never been invited to control. Grandma did not ask me to take the $42,000. She wanted it returned to the person who had sent it. By the end of the week, Mom, Dad, Aaron, and Matt signed a repayment agreement. The $6,000 still sitting in my parents' account went back immediately. Canceling the furniture orders, storage contract, and moving reservation recovered another $7,500. Mom and Dad sold the travel trailer they used twice a year and applied $10,500 to the balance. The remaining $18,000 would be repaid over 24 months, split evenly between my parents and Aaron's household. 2 missed payments would make the entire balance due. Mom called the terms humiliating. Grandma answered, "Humiliation is learning at my birthday that my son used my savings to buy obedience from someone else." She removed Dad's access to her accounts, stopped Mom from receiving financial statements, and set alerts to reach her directly. She added me only as an emergency contact. I refused access to her money. Replacing one family gatekeeper with another would not fix what had happened. Mom still asked whether Aaron's family could stay with me for just a few weeks while they found something affordable. "No, the children need stability. They need adults who make plans before surrendering their lease." I sent Matt updated listings for townhouses, extended stay hotels, and local housing assistance. I did not pay deposits. I did not offer my guest room. I did not accept furniture temporarily in my garage. Without my house as the automatic solution, everyone became surprisingly practical. Matt accepted a full-time logistics coordinator position. It paid less than his former management job, but it included benefits and started immediately. Erin increased her hours at the boutique. They canceled meal deliveries, subscriptions, and a planned weekend trip. They sold the expensive SUV after repairing it and replaced it with an older minivan. Within 12 days, they signed a lease on a modest 3-bedroom townhouse. The children shared rooms. No one slept in a motel. No one became homeless. The impossible crisis had become manageable the moment my home stopped being free. Matt required complete financial disclosure from Aaron and insisted they begin counseling. He had believed part of my parents' story, but Aaron had known I had never agreed. "You did not create a housing plan," he told her. "You created a crisis and assigned Claire the bill." Mom later said I had finally gotten what I wanted. "I did not want anyone to lose," I told her. "I wanted everyone to stop deciding that I should, for the next 6 months. Mom, Dad." And Aaron could contact me only by email. They were not allowed to visit without an invitation, use my address, send mail or furniture to my house, or promise my money, space, or time to anyone else. There were no spare keys, no temporary stays, no relatives calling to negotiate on their behalf. Mom called the rules cruel. "Trust is not restored by demanding access to the place you tried to give away," I replied. I finished the home office first. The third bedroom became a library with a treadmill beneath the window. I painted the guest room a soft blue and placed Grandma's favorite quilt across the bed. The basement stayed unfinished, for once. An empty space did not have to become someone else's solution. A few months later, Grandma spent the weekend with me. She stood in the guest room doorway and touched the quilt. "Is this where you planned for me to stay when you are invited?" "Yes." She smiled because she understood the difference. An invitation was love. A room promised by someone who did not own it was control. That evening, Mom saw a photograph Grandma posted and sent me a message. "You still have rooms sitting empty while Aaron is struggling." I looked around the quiet house I had worked 7 years to buy. "Empty does not mean available." She accused me of choosing a building over family. "No," I wrote. "I chose not to let family become the word you used whenever you wanted access to something mine." Then I turned off my phone and walked through every room without feeling guilty that none of them had been assigned to anyone but me. My parents said they were furious because I bought a house without consulting them. That was never the truth. They did not want advice. They wanted time to assign the rooms, spend Grandma's money, and turn my silence into consent. I kept my home. Grandma recovered every dollar. Aaron and Matt learned that adults become resourceful when someone else's property is no longer the plan. Would you have let them stay temporarily? Or refused from the beginning? Comment below. Subscribe. And stay for more family betrayal and clean revenge stories.